Welcome to the fourth lecture of Industrial Safety and Maintenance Management course. In this recorded lecture, we will be discussing about different hazards prevailing in any workplace or in any organization, and also we will be discussing about the identification of those hazards and how we can prevent those hazards and how we can control the consequences of those hazards. Now, recalling the definition of hazards, which we have already discussed in the introduction of this course. Hazards are any existing or potential condition that alone or interacting with other factors can cause harm to the human beings, to the structures, to the buildings, to the environment. Its example may include a spill on the floor or a broken equipment, or in this picture we can see an open drawer can also become the source of an accident, so it's also hazardous. Hazards in our manufacturing industry. There are many different types of hazards which put manufacturing workers' health or safety at risk. They can be classified as physical, chemical, biological, psychological, and etc. Now we will be discussing the four basic types of hazards. First of all, we will discuss physical hazards. These are any substance or activities that threats the physical health of the person or physical safety of a person. These may include exposure to the slips, trips, fall, electricity, loud noises, vibration, radiation hazards, extreme temperatures, fire, etc. Chemical hazards. Chemical hazards are simply hazards posed by the use of any chemical. These may be broadly classified as flammable, reactive, or health effects. Chemical having health effects like irritants, they may be carcinogenic or they may be toxic. Now coming towards the biological hazards. Biological hazards are any biological substance that poses the threat to the health of any living organism, especially human beings. These may include the sample of any microorganism like viruses, bacteria. Now coming towards the psychological hazards, these are the conditions and acts at any workplace that affects the mental health of the worker. These may include violences at the workplace, fatigue, hours of work, or technological changes. In this course, we will be discussing about some major hazards which are present in any chemical industry or in any manufacturing industry. These major hazards include fall or working at height, confined space hazards, mechanical injuries by any equipment or machines, vibration and noise, heat and temperature hazards, illumination hazards, hazards related to the radioactive materials, fire hazards, electrical hazards, and toxic materials hazards. Fall hazards. In this video or in this lecture, we will be discussing in detail about the fall hazards, how we can identify where the fall hazard exists and how we can prevent those fall hazards or we can avoid accidents due to those fall hazards, and also how we can control the consequences of fall hazard, we can reduce the consequences of fall hazards. Now you might be thinking why we are discussing fall hazards on priority basis, because 16% of all work related injuries are due to fall. Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows that fall to the lower level accounted for 14% of all fatalities in 2014, and OSHA standards related to the scaffolding and ladders were amongst the most frequently cited violations. Now you can see in this bar chart that the second major events that result in fatal occupational injuries are fall, slips, and trips. Slips, trips, and fall. What is the difference between slips, trips, and fall? Now let us first discuss about the trips. Trips happen when your foot or lower leg hits an object and stops, but your upper body continues to move, resulting in a loss of balance. When you trip, your body usually moves forward. Now what are slips? The slips tend to propel your body backwards. Depending upon the velocity of your movement, you could seriously injure your head, neck, or spine. Slips may result due to the lack of friction between the foot and the ground surfaces. Now, what are falls? Falls are generally results of slips or trips, where the person's body hit the ground due to loss of balance and lack of support. They can also occur while walking from a higher elevation to a lower elevation, that is, fall to a lower level. What is working at height? Working at height can be elaborated as, or it can include when a worker is working 4 feet above the ground level, or when someone is required to work near the edges of any surface from where he or she may fall. When worker is working on a ground level but there is any nearby any hole or a pit where he or she may fall into it, so they are exposed to the fall hazard. Or when worker is required to work on a fragile or a delicate roof or any surfaces. Unless working on a ladder, scaffold or scissor lift, OSHA requires fall protection when exposed to 4 feet fall or greater. Causes of fall. Most of the falls are associated with one or more of the following identifiable factors, like foreign object on the walking surface, design flaws or uneven surfaces or changes in the floor level, or an individual's impaired physical condition. View obstructed while carrying an object. In this picture we can see that person cannot see that what is coming in front of him. He is not seeing the forks of the forklift are coming in his way. Poor system of work, for example, using ladders, chairs or to access the high storage areas, climbing down ladders while carrying objects. Poorly maintained and dimly lit stairwells can also become a reason of fall. Causes of slips. Inappropriate floor surfaces, smooth or shiny tiles in a wet area, slippery floor surfaces, oily, icy, wet or dusty surfaces can increase the chances of slip. Inappropriate footwears are not just high heels, sneakers, work boots and dress shoes can also be dangerous in slippery work environments. Employees should look for the slip resistant shoes that are specially designed to offer a better grip. Poor housekeeping, that is, spills not cleaned up immediately. Inappropriate drainage like liquids and waste from the machinery leaking onto the floor. Causes of slips may include inappropriate floor surfaces, example smooth shiny tiles in a wet area, or slippery floor surfaces, oily, icy, wet or dusty surfaces. Inappropriate footwear may also become a cause of slip. Inappropriate footwear are not just high heels, sneakers, work boots and dress shoes can also be dangerous in slippery work environment. Employees should look for slip resistant shoes that are specially designed to offer a better grip. Poor housekeeping, example, spills are not cleaned up immediately. Inappropriate drainage, liquids and waste from the machinery leaking onto the floor. We require friction between the surfaces and the shoes to walk on a surface. Lesser the friction, greater would be the chances of slips. How slippery the floor surface is can be measured by the coefficient of friction. We have already read about the coefficient of friction in the particular technology course. Now for your recap, it's a ratio of frictional force to the weight of the pedestrian. Technically speaking, a slip occurs when the coefficient of friction between the bottom of the shoes and the walking surface does not provide sufficient resistance or friction to counteract the forward force at the point of contact. Lesser the value of coefficient of friction, greater would be the chances of slip. It can be seen in this chart. This happens with oily and wet floors, which moves the coefficient of friction one category down, that is below the good traction limit, which is above the value of 4.7. Now let's have a look on some pictures taken from the actual working environment where they need to correct the hazardous condition. Overhead work platform. This is a photo of two platforms on either side of a bucket conveyor. Access to the platforms is provided by one ladder between them that stops at the level of the platform. Employees have to climb to either of the platforms from the ladder. Overhead runways. This overhead runway is connecting buildings at a height of 25 feet. Its guardrails are damaged or broken. They are not in good condition. Any employee or worker, while trying to gain the balance by holding it, may fall from a 25-foot height and get injured. Elevated workstations. In this picture, we can see employees are working on a roof of a manufactured house, which is about 14 feet above the ground level. They are doing electrical maintenance or they are installing roof shieldings without wearing any fall protection PP or without any fall preventing thing around them. They should have wear the PFAs. PFAs are personal fall arrest system. We will discuss them about them in detail in the later video. Floor openings and pits. This photo is of a service pit used for changing the oil and performing other vehicle maintenances. This pit is 50-inch deep. It should have been covered when the servicing or maintenance activities have been completed to prevent the fall. The worker in the picture is performing some task on the height and also sitting on the edge of the working surface, and he is also not wearing some PFAs or fall arrest systems. In this picture, worker is standing at the edge of the working surface with no means of fall protection. He is exposed to the fall hazard. He also could have wore the PFAs. Wrong equipment use. In this photograph, worker chose to use the bricks to access the workplace above his head. By making this choice, he has put himself at a risk of hurting and falling. We should use right equipment for the job. This worker has taken a shortcut and tried to make a temporary scaffold out of whatever he found nearby. Fall hazard minimization. Hierarchy for control of any hazard involves these three basic points: elimination, prevention, and control. Now, as here we are discussing about the fall, so eliminating the fall hazard. By elimination, we mean that hazard should be eliminated or the workers should be isolated from reaching the source of hazard by using engineering controls. Prevention of fall, it can be done by changing the way the people are working through administrative control and work practices control. Control of the fall. Control the effect means prevent the worker getting hurt if the accident occurs. Eliminating the fall hazard. Covering the floor opening is an effective way to eliminate the fall hazard, especially if the access to the hole is rarely necessary, or building a guardrail along the sides of the opening if the work is in progress. Locating the plant equipment in the safe location where there is no risk of the workers to fall. Temperature and pressure gauges of any reactor or equipment can be installed near the eye level of the worker instead of installing them at the top of the equipment. Or in any unavoidable case, drones equipped with cameras can be used for the inspection at height. Fall hazard can be prevented by using the guardrails. These are the vertical barriers built at the edge of anything like a balcony or any shelf at a height to prevent the people from falling. OSHA has provided us with the guidelines for the proper construction of these barriers. It should consist of a top rail, mid rail, intermediate vertical members and toe boards where necessary. Top rails should be in between 39 to 45 inch above the working surface, They must be capable of withstanding 200-pound force applied within 2 inch. That is, on application of load, they should not be deflected downwards. Mid-rails. Mid-rails must be midway or halfway between the top rail and the working or the walking level. It is usually 29 inch of the height. Mid-rails should be able to bear a load of 150 pounds applied in any direction. Also, these guardrails should not contain rough or sharp edges that can hurt or tear the dresses of the workers. Guardrail system can be combined with the toe boards. These toe boards prevent the material and the equipment that roll down or slide from the edges to the lower level. Personal Fall Arrest System or PFS. PFS prevent the fall by keeping the worker from reaching near the fall hazards. They are mostly used where the guardrails cannot be installed. For example, while performing the maintenance on the outer part of the building or while inspecting the outer part of the split AC, workers should wear the PFS to prevent their fall. PFS can also be used when the section of the guardrails or hole covers are temporarily removed. There are three key components of the personal fall arrest system, or they are often called as ABCs of the personal fall arrest system. They must be properly in place to provide the maximum workers' protection. If any of them is out of specifications, PFAs won't function properly. These ABCs are anchorage, body harness, and connectors. Now coming towards the anchorage, the requirements for the anchorage are: they are fixed to the strong structural member. Anchorages are not effective if they are attached to the weak structures, because certain structural member may not be strong enough to hold the sudden weight imposed by a falling worker. While installing any anchor, instructions provided by the manufacturers must be followed. According to the OSHA requirement, it should be easily accessible, located at a safe distance, and it can support 5000 lb weight per worker. Body harnesses. Body harnesses distribute the weight evenly over the shoulder, buttock, and thighs of the worker. These harnesses include shoulder straps, leg straps, and adjustable buckles or fasteners. A safe and effective harness will fit, and it will be of correct size, and it is adjusted so that all the straps are comfortable. Connectors. The link between the harness and the anchorage point is these connecting devices like snap locks, lanyards, lifelines. The lanyards are commonly of two categories: non-shock absorbing and shock absorbing. Obviously, shock absorbing are more preferable because they reduce the fall arrest force by 60 to 65%. Control of the fall. The consequences of the fall hazards can be reduced by using the debris net or the safety net. Debris nets are designed to catch the falling tools, and the safety nets are designed to catch the falling workers. When the safety nets are used, they must be installed as close as possible under the working surface on which the workers are performing work, and never more than 30 feet below the level. The distance between the net and the working surface must be unobstructed, so that if a person falls, he or she may not be hit by any object along the way. There must be sufficient clearance underneath to prevent the falling body from hitting the surface or structure below the net. Drop testing of the net should be performed to ensure that safety net is installed properly. Defective nets should be avoided. They should not be used, or the nets should be inspected at least every week and after a human or a tool has fallen on them. Tools and other debris should be removed immediately from the net. To work properly, net must have safe openings. Mesh numbers of the opening must not exceed 36 square inches. The minimum breaking strength of the net should be 5000 pounds. Scaffolds. Scaffolds or staggings are the temporary elevated work platforms. They are used to support the work crew and materials. They aid in the construction, maintenance, and repair of the building, bridges, and all other man-made structures. Before the installation of a scaffold, The work area should be clearly defined and barricaded off. Signboards should be placed that scaffolds are being erected, and it is not safe because falling objects and structure instability are all dangerous possibilities. Scaffolds must be installed as per manufacturer's instruction. Scaffolds must rest on a base plate and a mud sill. Blocks or bricks are not acceptable as a scaffold base because it may create instability. Requirements regarding the platform of the scaffolds. Each platform on the working level must be fully planked and secure to prevent the movement. Planks with the visible defects must not be used. Planks should extend 6 inches from the point where they are secured. All the scaffolds are to be capable of supporting without failure at least 4 times the maximum intended load. Access ladders for the scaffolds. Workers must be provided with a safe way to access the scaffold. The ladders of the scaffold must be firmly secured and extended at least 3 feet above the landing surface to provide a handhold to the workers. Guardrail system for the scaffold. When working on the scaffold 6 feet above the ground or the lower levels, guardrails must be installed with all the requirements of the guardrails as previously discussed. Like the load bearing capacity of the top rail should be 200 pounds and the load bearing capacity of the mid rail would be 150 pounds. The heights of the top rail should be in between 35 to 49 inches and the height of the mid rail would be 21 inch. Firstly, it should be avoided to build the scaffold on the stairs, but if necessary it must be properly constructed following all the OSHA requirements. Never stack blocks, bricks or use ladder on the top of a scaffold for extra height. Powered work platform. These are the mechanical devices used by the workers to carry out tasks at height. They are used for temporary tasks to be performed such as maintenance, or else they are used by the firefighters in case of emergency. They can be easily operated by a single operator. These powered work platform includes air lifts, scissor lifts and man baskets placed on a forklift. Only trained persons should be allowed to operate these devices. In this picture we can see that operator is lifting a person on a wrong equipment. Only equipment that are designed for lifting the personnel and suitable for the assigned task should be used. Workers should also make sure that all the access gates and openings are closed before rising any powered work platform. Workers should stand firmly on the floor of the basket or the lift platform. They should not climb or lean over the guardrails or handrails. They should not even use plank, ladders or other devices as the working position. PFAs should be worn all the time and is to be attached to the basket at the manufacturer's anchor point. They should not belt off to the adjacent structures or pole while they are in the basket. Do not raise the powered work platform on an uneven or a soft surface or even in the windy condition. One should not travel to the job location with the lifts in the elevated position. These lifts should not be used near the power lines and never exceed the manufacturer's rated loading. On the daily basis, inspection should be done to check their guardrails, hydraulic reservoir levels, etc. because taking an extra minute or two may prevent from a serious injury. Most of the fall and slip accidents occur on the stairs, some because of the unsafe condition and some due to the unsafe acts of the workers. Stairways must have a stair rail along each unprotected sides or the edges. Stairs that have wall on both sides must have at least one handrail on the right hand side. Handrails should not be lower than 36 inch and could bear a load of 200-pound force. Handrails should be smooth without the sharp edges, burrs or rough surfaces. The angle of installation for the stairs should be between 30 degrees to 50 degrees from the horizontal. Minimum width of the stairs should be 22 inches. Riser's height and the tread depth shall be uniform within each flight of the stairs, with a variation no more than 1/4 of an inch in any stairway system. Treads should not be less than 9.5 inches and the riser's height should not be greater than 8 inches. Landing should be provided after every 12 feet. When the door or gates open directly on a stairway, provide a platform that exceeds 20 inches beyond the swing of the door. Stairs should not be slippery. Fix the slippery conditions immediately. Stairs must be constructed to carry a load of 1000 pounds at least. No posters, displays or bulletin boards should be placed near the stairs. Also, proper lighting should be ensured. Emergency lighting systems should be installed on the stairways, so in case of a power failure, they can be lighted up automatically. Common causes of fall or accident while using ladders are wrong ladder used, ladders in the poor condition, or ladders are used improperly. Ladder conditions that become the cause of the major fall accidents involve missing rungs. Inspect the ladder for the visible defects like broken or missing rungs or steps. Withdraw the defective ladders from the service until repaired. Cracks on the side rails or the rungs. Check the wooden ladders for the moisture content before using it for electrical maintenance work. Metal ladders should be checked for the burrs and the sharp edges. Proper use of ladder to ensure the safety or do's of the ladder safety includes that ladder rails are to be extended at least 3 feet above the upper landing surface, or else it must be secured at its top. Limit the ladder to one person at a time. Follow 1:4 rule, that is, for every 4 feet of vertical distance, the base of the ladder should be 1 foot apart. Use the ladder only on the stable and level surface. In this picture, ladder is not on a stable surface, so this is an unsafe act. Keep centered, stay straight and close to the ladder. Never act like this man shown in the picture. Keep 3-point contact, that is, your 2 hands and 1 foot, or your 2 foot and 1 hand should always be in contact with the steps and rungs of the ladder all the time. Ladders are one of the most commonly used work platform, and they are also one of the most commonly misused piece of equipment. Now let's discuss the don'ts of the ladder safety. Don't lean or try to reach far while working on a ladder. Don't stand on the top or the first step of the ladder. It's not safe. Don't use top step to stand on the ladder. In this photograph, worker is standing on the top of the ladder. This is very unsafe practice because he can lose his balance and fall and be seriously injured. Limit the ladder to one person at a time. Don't carry tools in your hand while climbing on a ladder. A tool pouch or belt should be used. Ladder shall not be tied to reach the extra height. Don't try to reposition the ladder while someone is standing on it. In this picture, we can clearly see that the two workers are performing an unsafe act. One of them is holding the ladder and other is trying to reach the top. And also the ladder is not on the stable surface. Don't use step ladders in which metal spreaders or locking device are not present, which hold the front and the back section in an open position when the ladder is being used. Never use a ladder that is damaged or a ladder with broken steps. Don't try to reposition a ladder while someone is standing on it. In this picture, we can clearly see that the two workers are performing an unsafe act. The one is holding the ladder, the other is climbing on it. Also, the ladder is not on the stable surface. Don't use step ladders in which metal spreaders or locking device are not present, which hold the front and back section in an open position when the ladder is being used. Choosing the right equipment to prevent the fall hazard from the ladder, scaffold or powered work platform. These There are three criteria. Will the job take only a short amount of time? Then you can use ladder, because installing a scaffold or taking a airlift to the location will consume a lot of time. Does your work require side to side movement? If it is, then ladders are not safe, because you have to always climb back, move down and then move the ladder and then again climb up. So scaffold and the airlifts are the equipment when the movement along the side to sides are required. Does your work require using tools with both the hands? It was among the don'ts of the ladder safety that you should not carry the tools in both the hands while working on the ladder. So scaffolds or airlifts can be used in such cases. As you have just seen the video regarding the fall hazards, its identification, prevention and control. Now it's time to check how much your concepts are clear, how much safety issues and major points you have gained. I have prepared a small quiz for you. Read the questions carefully. Note down your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Now let's begin the quiz. check your answers. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and healthy. Allah Hafiz.